Hey everybody, this is Dem Francis, also known as Leonard Meltzner.
And this is Richard Maxwell fan 111XX1.
And you're watching episode 99 of the Adventures in Odyssey Oddcast. What are we doing today, Victoria?
Today we are doing the lore of Tom Riley, and by Tom Riley, we're going to do a little Jessica Jones. Tom Riley, aka the Riley family, because we're also going to be talking about Agnes and Timmy.
Yeah, because, we're not going to do separate
and
videos.
Wilbur and
ever.
Whatever Tom's wife's name was, his first wife. Do we know?
No.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because obviously we're never going to do a video on Agnes by herself or Timmy by himself.
We thought about doing a lore video on Wilbur, but it was just too long.
Exactly. It's
we didn't want to cover it.
A lot of people have been asking for it, but I don't have that kind of time, to be honest. So, yeah, we called the video Tom Riley for the clickbaits. But, yeah, it's about the whole Riley family because, it's all interconnected stuff. So, what is lore, Victoria? It's been a while since we've only done 3 episodes of the show before.
Lore in a minute is when Lore in a minute is when we condense an entire character's backstory and everything surrounding their life
17 minutes.
Into a minute. But then Devin was like, I'm gonna make it even better, and I'm gonna make it longer than a minute.
Like half an hour.
So we decided to be awesome and give you that extra content on the house. You're welcome.
For free.
You're welcome.
Gratis.
You're welcome. So, yeah, this is Tom's life, and Agnes's life, and Timmy's life, and most importantly, everyone's favorite character.
Wilbur Lee.
Wilbur. Love that Wilbur.
Yeah. So, the info on Tom, Agnes, and Timmy in here is all interspersed based on chronological order, as it can be determined. Which means that, it's not like, oh, we do all Agnes's stuff together and Tom's stuff. Even though, even before Tom and Agnes meet, it'll also be like, oh, Tom did this, and then this was happening to Agnes, and then the year after that, this was happening to Tom, so it's all spliced together. Because, that's the point of lore. If I all said it in the order we learned it, then it's like, oh, I just listened to the episodes. The whole point of this is to take all of these different stories and bits of facts and places and put them together in order and be like, what's the big picture? What's going on here? So, in this one...
But we only see things through a glass darkly, so we can't figure it out.
It is worth noting for this one, because there are a lot of episodes with Tom where they name either the age when it happened, or the year when it happened, or how many years ago it happened. So there's a lot of years we're able to figure out for this, so... Precisely named years where they say the specific year in the episode are given as absolutes in this lore. Years which I determined based on the time passed relative to the episode's air date are prefaced with around, like this happened around 1960, Tom became a farmer. I think I'm going to post the transcript of this on Tumblr, and I'll probably do that for the past 3 lores as well, so if anyone wants the written version, there's probably going to be a link in the description.
Trademark.
If anyone has any questions about the sources of any of the information in this, then please inquire, because I keep sources listed on all my notes, and I'm happy to explain, because it's been a really long time writing it. There's always a lot more info on people's past on this show out there than we realize if you know where to dig for it, and in terms of where to dig for it, it should be pointed out, all info here comes from only audio episodes, no books or videos or other external sources. So, on the AIOO wiki page, it says Tom's middle name is Dale. Things like that, I usually assume they come from the complete guide, which we don't own yet. But it's not mentioned in the audio series. I can't confirm it, so I didn't put it in there. It's just Thomas Riley Jr. So, I'm reading all of the audio for this one because Victoria is very busy in life right now, and these do take a while to record.
I'm a busy person, and these lore episodes are, I argue, our most time-consuming episodes we do.
Most time-consuming probably relative to the length of the final episode, because they're pretty short overall.
I'd say out of our different types of episodes.
Proportionally to how much content we get out of it, they're the longest to create, recording-wise.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah. As a rate.
So, yeah, because Devin has to write all of these, and then we have to read these monstrous
We have to research
paragraphs.
them, and then write them, and then read it, and then edit the audio down, and then add in the
I have to read it
pictures.
and make sure everything's nice and proper.
Yeah, so we should stop rambling and let you listen all about Tom and all the things that he's done in his life, and so let's read it right now. This is the lore for Thomas Riley Jr., Agnes Rose Lee Riley and Timothy Riley, accurate up to episode 797, A Predicament of Biblical Proportions. Thomas Riley Jr. was born in the 1920s to Thomas Riley Sr., probably in or around Odyssey. His father was a respected country doctor, and he had one younger sister, Becky, who would go on to have a granddaughter named Jamie Martin. In addition to being a doctor, Tom Riley Sr. bought and operated an apple farm in Odyssey. Unbeknownst to the Rileys, the original trees of the orchard were planted by Johnny Appleseed, who also built a cabin on the property. Tom Riley Sr. also helped renovate the Fillmore Recreation Center during the Great Depression, around when Tom was a child or teenager. The family owned at least one horse, Bethesda, and Tom would own many more horses over the course of his life. Agnes Rose, maiden name unknown, was born in 1930, named after an aunt whom she didn't like. When Tom was 8 years old, he received a 5-legged dog named Cheddar for Christmas. When he was 11, sometime in the 1930s, he had an experience where he and his sister were locked in a basement by a paranoid old lady while trying to deliver medicine on behalf of their father. The family was relatively poor, and they were once all forced to stand outside of a church in the next county over during the service because they weren't wealthy enough. Tom was bullied often as a child for being very small, getting called Pipsqueak, and he let it get to him all the way into high school. He never tried out for sports as a result. In the 10th grade, he grew 5 inches, catching up to his classmates, but he still felt insecure about his height. Sometime after grade 10, Tom became a Christian, and this helped him get over his height issues. Around 1939 or 1940, Agnes started journaling at the age of 9 or 10. She decided to go by Rose, her middle name, since she disliked the aunt after whom she was named, and kept using Rose until after college. Around 1940, Agnes became best friends with Joanne Judith Woodston at a summer camp at Loon Lake, just a few hours' drive from Odyssey over the state line. The girls made a pact to meet there every year at camp. Sometime after graduation, Tom probably moved away from Odyssey for a number of years, either before or after 1946. This may have been at the same time that he formed a vaudeville team with Andrew Kiley for 5 years. They were quite talented, but when they were offered a show at a dinner theater in New York, Tom declined out of fear, while Kiley went on to have a successful TV career. Tom hasn't talked to Andrew Kiley since around 1989. Tom was living in Odyssey in 1946 when the Odyssey Bank was robbed by Percival Fenwick and Alfred Myers. Agnes continued going to the camp at Loon Lake every year, meeting up with Joanne until they were 18 years old around 1948. Joanne was leaving to Texas for university, so they changed the pact to meet in another 5 years on August 2nd at 6 o'clock p.m. Agnes met with Joanne again around 1953 at the age of 23. Joanne was overseas for the next meetup around 1958, so they changed the pact to meet every 10 years instead. Tom takes over his father's apple farm in Odyssey around 1960. He's a frequent coach of the Odyssey Coyotes, both for the girls softball and boys baseball teams, for many years. Tom marries and has his only child, Timothy Riley, around 1961 or 1962. Around 1963, Agnes meets with Joanne again and is engaged to Wilbur Lee, a train mechanic. Shortly after, Wilbur's job moved them all over the place. Agnes became a Christian because of Joanne's influence between around 1963 and 1965, while Joanne was on a 2-year mission in Sri Lanka. Timmy's first money he ever earned was a quarter for raking the leaves. On one of his birthdays, Tom had the quarter set in gold and made into a necklace, which Timmy wore everywhere. Timmy fixed up Johnny Appleseed's cabin and used it as a personal hideout. He unintentionally covered over Johnny Appleseed's emblem on the doorframe while renovating. Whit met Timmy a few times, likely in his first few years teaching at McCallum Junior High, around 1969 to 1972. Around the age of 10, around 1972, Timmy went to summer camp. His faith became real to him, mostly due to being transported to an alternate dimension with his friend Alice, where God used them both to aid a mountain man named Fletcher in freeing the country of Maris from the oppressing Adrians. Timmy later heard a sermon from a counselor at that camp about storing up treasures in heaven, and he decided to bury his most prized possessions in a banker's box for a while under his cabin like a fast. While he was finishing, he heard Tom approaching, and in his haste to replace the floorboards, he accidentally dropped his quarter necklace into the dirt. He meant to retrieve it later, but he never did. Sometime in the next year, probably in the fall of that same year, around 1972, Timmy became friends with an orphan, P.D. Barnes, after saving him from a school bully. P.D. lived with the Rileys for several weeks. Timmy and P.D. went on a fishing trip together, where Timmy told P.D. about Jesus. P.D. fell into the lake and was unable to swim. Timmy dove in, and while he managed to save P.D., he himself drowned. P.D. returned to the orphanage.
Tom's wife died from cancer a year later, around 1973. Agnes's husband, Wilbur Lee, died at the same time, also from cancer, and she was unable to make her meeting with Joanne. Around 1974, Tom found a penniless Ben Shepherd hitchhiking on the side of the road. He gave him shelter, food, and found a job for him in town. Ben fixed the roof of Timmy's cabin. Tom also, at the same time that Bart Rathbone was in middle school, gave self-esteem advice to Matthew Peterson, drawing on his own past issues with his height. Tom joined the city council between around 1969 and 1983, where he formed a long-standing rivalry with city councilman Philip Glossman. In his first year on the council, he presented an award to Witt for excellence in teaching. 3 years after their spouses died, Tom and Agnes married around 1976. Agnes took Tom to Loon Lake during their honeymoon, but didn't divulge the significance of the location to him. After Agnes learned what happened to Timmy, she and Tom tried to have another child for a long time. Agnes miscarried several times, and the doctors determined that she's barren. Agnes started to suffer from depression and unreality issues, which got progressively worse over time. Tom asked for prayer at church, but didn't make Agnes's condition public knowledge. After she failed to recover, he eventually stopped mentioning it altogether. Tom broke his back around 1983, and Agnes missed another meeting with Joanne while she was caring for him. This is where Adventures in Odyssey begins. Agnes and Tom acted as a halfway house for Michelle Terry while she was transitioning out of juvenile detention. Tom bought Leah and Rachel, his only 2 horses at the time, naming them after the wives of Jacob. Tom's barn was burnt down by Richard Maxwell in an attempt to keep Tom from the city council vote on granting Dr. Regis Blackard's business license. Tom was nearly killed when he was knocked out by the barn door opening as the horses escaped the fire, but Witt dragged his body to safety. Tom held a barn raising to rebuild. Tom's Creek was contaminated by an insecticide spill from the Edgebiter Supplies warehouse upstream, poisoning Rachel and several children through Tom's contaminated apples. Richard Maxwell came back to Odyssey to seek forgiveness from the people he wronged. Tom was unable to forgive Richard for nearly killing him and his horses by burning down his barn. Philip Glossman, who is now working for the State Secretary of Transportation, Fosdick Penrose, tried to build a highway through Tom's land. The state had eminent domain and was on the cusp of demolishing Timmy's cabin before a mysterious drifter named Mr. Chapman discovered the apple emblem in the cabin previously covered by Timmy's renovations. This proved that the cabin and orchard were placed there by Johnny Appleseed, making the cabin a historical landmark and saving the land from becoming a highway. Rachel gave birth to a colt on Christmas Eve. Tom named him Little Joe. On the 20th anniversary of Timmy's death, Petey Barnes and Tom both visited Timmy's grave. This was the first time Tom had seen Petey since before Timmy's death. Witt convinced Tom to talk to Petey, and Petey explained all the events surrounding the drowning, including how Timmy saved his life and convinced Petey to become a Christian. Tom was finally able to forgive himself for Timmy's death. Agnes's mental health reached the point where she needed to stay at the Hillingdale Haven Mental Health Center full-time around 1993. Agnes was moved to Hillingdale on August 2nd, missing her 3rd meeting in a row with Joanne. Tom visited Agnes regularly, but she rarely left the center. Tom ran for mayor of Odyssey when Bill Jenkins stepped down and Bart Rathbone began running unopposed. Because Blackard was trying to manipulate the whole exchange of power, he sent Philip Glossman and 2 Environmental Detection Agency agents to plant and discover residual contamination on Tom's farm from the Edgebiter spill. As a backup plan, Blackard used his RBG Foundation, which donated money to many political campaigns, to buy Edgebiter supplies, then donate money to Tom and possibly Bart's campaigns. Glossman's contamination ruse was uncovered, though not traced back to Blackard, and Tom became mayor by a landslide. Later on, once Blackard set his plan into motion to take the mineral under Witt's End, he pulled his various strings to distract Tom from what was happening. He used the Bones of Wrath to wreak vandalism, which would call Tom's mayoral skills into question. He then leaked the fact that the RBG Foundation owned Edgebiter and appeared to have never contributed to Bart's campaign, making Tom look like a hypocrite who used those corporate donations to buy the election, calling his integrity into question. This culminated in Tom being recalled as mayor. During this time, Tom finally forgave Richard Maxwell for burning his barn after he saw the sacrifices Richard made to clear Tom's name. After Blackard's schemes came to light, Tom reclaimed his office. As Tom neared the end of his first term as mayor, the Rathbones found Tom visiting Agnes at Hillingdale and created a scandal in the Odyssey Tattler tabloid, not realizing that Agnes was Tom's wife. Tom held a press conference to let everyone know about what happened to Agnes and officially declared he wouldn't run for re-election. Tom's term as mayor ended and Margaret Fay won the next election over Bart Rathbone. After his term ended, Tom saw God's next purpose for him and invited a school class from Oswald Heights in Connellsville to visit his farm. God sent the angel Malachi to Odyssey to bring messages to several of the residents. Malachi caused 2 of the students to find Timmy's cabin, breaking a hole through the floorboards, revealing Timmy's necklace in the dirt underneath. Malachi told Tom to dig for the rest of Timmy's treasures, and Tom found the banker's box of items, including Timmy's journal, which recounted his experiences at camp. Inspired by how that camp affected Timmy, Tom decided to open a family retreat center on his farm. Despite some opposition from Mayor Margaret Fay, Tom was met with overwhelming support from the community and was able to go ahead with the project. He hired Connie Kendall as his overall head of education and activities programming. The Timothy Center's opening day was supposed to start with a retreat focusing on God's will, but was canceled at the last minute. The Shepherd family still showed up, however, unaware of the cancellation. Tom and Ben both remembered how Tom had helped Ben out 25 years before while he was hitchhiking, and Tom hired Ben and Ellen Shepherd as carpenter and cook respectively. The entire family was invited to live at the Timothy Center full-time. While the center was met with great reactions from the public, a number of cancellations and setbacks led to harder financial times, just as Novacom Broadcasting was moving into town. Arthur Dent sought out Tom to lease some of his land for building a broadcast tower for Novacom's programming, and Tom accepted. Once the NovaBox launched, a medical variation of the radio wave studies research was developed to treat patients with mental illness, and Hillingdale Haven used it on Agnes Riley, among other patients. Despite Witt's pleading, Tom refused to stop the treatments, as Agnes was showing vast improvements in her energy and memory. She was able to come back to the farm for the first time in almost 10 years, but then she relapsed worse than she ever had before, not even remembering who Tom was. Shortly after, Arthur Dent bombed the Novacom broadcast tower on Tom's land, while Tom was up at the tower with Alex Jefferson and Cal Jordan. Tom lost his memories of the preceding hours in the explosion and became implicated in the explosion due to his anger over what Novacom did to Agnes. Tom went to trial for the bombing, but was ultimately acquitted after Dent confessed to the crime. The trial was used to expose Novacom, Andromeda, and Operation Think Tank. Around 2003, Mandy Strasberg began volunteering at Hillingdale Haven. Looking very much like Joanne did at her age, visiting Agnes on August 2nd set off Agnes's memories. She escaped from Hillingdale and hitchhiked to Loon Lake, meeting up with Joanne for the first time in 40 years. After Eugene and Katrina returned to Odyssey, they held a wedding vow renewal because no one from Odyssey was present at their first impromptu wedding. When they both failed to arrive on time, Tom and Agnes decided to renew their vows in their place. This has been the lore for Thomas Riley Sr., Agnes Rose Lee Riley, and Timothy Riley, accurate up to episode 797, A Predicament of Biblical Proportions.
Well, now, wasn't that educational?
Educational.
I was going to say edutainment.
Edu-link.
No.
Too bad that's not
No.
a thing, because
We
Hand
can't.
Up isn't around anymore.
We can't talk about the EduLink. What are you talking about, Victoria? There's no war in Bossing Say.
EduLink!
So, yeah, hopefully you guys all enjoyed that lore on Tom Riley.
Devin!
Is it
You know,
about
people
Tom Riley?
in Africa won't be able to listen to this lore because they don't have EduLinks. Too bad they can't use the hand pumps, and we have to, bring them computers because there's no EduLinks anymore.
I hope you guys all enjoyed Tom Riley's lore, so if you have any questions about anything, or any facts about his past that we forgot,
Or just want to yell at us.
Yeah, did we make any bizarro mistakes?
Or you just don't like us.
Please let us
Just
know.
let
Did
us
we
know.
push the boundaries of inference too far? Does science know no bounds? What hath science wrought?
Game over, man.
Any or all of that, just write to Colorado Springs, Colorado 80995.
We'll see if Canada's smart enough to get it.
And figure it out. One day, Victoria will get that quote right.
Never.
So yeah, what are we talking about next time, Victoria? Wait, what episode is next time, Victoria?
It doesn't matter because this episode is episode 99. Woo! We've been waiting for this one for a long time. I want to thank you because you like me. You all like me. And
Victoria's batting 0 for 2 today. On
I'm
quotes.
like Elise when I do. I put my all in it. You have to at least admire my passion.
What were you saying?
Episode 99. Congratulations to us. Next episode is the boring 100, but who really cares? But we have a guest in our next episode. So come and find out who it is, because we're not going to tell you here, because it's a surprise. Shh.
No words, only dreams now.
We're going to be reviewing the Odyssey episode of the month, something biblical proportions. It's way too long to remember.
Predicament of biblical proportions. You said most of it, but thank you.
And an act of nobility.
Yes.
Which is
well
known as being one of my favorite episodes.
Apparently well known, except for if you're Devin.
I have told you many a time. You just don't know how to listen. We should do a hear me game.
Apparently. So, yeah, we're talking about that next time, because it's still Wit's life, and that is ostensibly part of Wit's life.
It's the year of the Whittaker.
Yes, it is, and it's drawing to a close. Only 3 episodes left to go after this next one.
Sad.
We got Rescue from Manitoba Point, Operation Dig Out, Silent Night, and that will be the end of the year of Wit. There you go. Spoiler alert. Those are October, November, and December reviews, because of Remembrance Day and Christmas, respectively. See, we planned these things out in advance.
And we also don't have a lot of choices for what episodes to use for Wit. That's
exactly,
why we had
but
to
it
use
worked
Memories
out.
of Jerry. But we got so many Year of Wit episodes just from the show in general.
I know,
like new ones this
year. We got
year.
the Journal of John Avery Whittaker, which admittedly is the reason we did the Year of Wit, but then we also got the Bow People parts 1 and 2 completely by surprise.
Yeah, I know.
Amazing.
It was amazing.
And so we've been
great.
talking way too long for just this wrap up on this thing.
You can't even, Devin, your lips were like a bee flapping its wings right there.
Yeah.
It was amazing to look at.
It's like, how
you
does
so
science
fast.
can't understand it? How do my lips fly? But my lips don't care, they just continue flying. Red, black, yellow, black, yellow, black, yellow, black.
I don't know what you're quoting.
You don't, really?
No, I don't.
It's the beginning of the B-movie script.
Oh, okay.
I was about to say, I like how I rag on us for talking too long. 20 seconds later, I start quoting, I start at the beginning of the B-movie script. It's like, as far the opposite direction as I possibly could have gone from trying to wrap up quickly.
I can't talk about this anymore.
Next time, episode 100, Predicament of Biblical Proportions and an Act of Nobility. Be there, be someplace else.
The middle
Until
of this
then,
episode is so organized.
We need
Beginning
to,
and ending are so
we
awful.
need to balance this out, Victoria. I sound really drunk right now.
We both do. It's all your fault.
Until then, thank you for joining us on our side of the YouTube. I've been Devin Francis, also known as Leonard Meltzner.
I can't breathe.
And you're watching The Adventures in Odyssey Oddcast.